have Dr. Francis Yoo here, and he is going to bring in some of his teaching. This is specifically using the Jungian psychology. So, Dr. Yoo, I will explain to the audience here what I am struggling with, which is expression of a lot of feelings that I don't feel I should express, and part of that is anger, which I have felt and allowed myself to process today. And you had a great tool that I would love to share with the audience and also utilize to see how it can help me today.
Yeah, the short version is that all humans are capable of being angry. That anger will exist, and the anger has to go somewhere. It either goes out and then it's dealt with and diluted, kind of like into the stars and the universe, or it's buried somewhere and into the unconscious aspect of our psyche. Oh, I'll stuff it in there in the treasure chest in the basement, or in the closet in the basement behind my yearbook from high school or something. It's like I know if I really search it's in there, but no, I'm not gonna pull it out. But it exists. We all have anger, potential for anger, except that we've been taught, or many of us have been taught, and retain the idea. Oh, I can't express my anger. That's just bad. We
Mhm.
don't do that. We just shut up and we go home, or maybe some people write about it or something. But most people is just they just kind of push it down somewhere and down deep. Oh, it's not there anymore, but it actually is. It's just that you or we're not aware of it anymore. And that's what Carl Jung called the shadow aspect of our unconscious, of our we have our conscious part of our psyche, kind of like right now. I know I'm Francis, I'm talking to you, Jillian, and it's a little bit warm now. That's why I opened the window. But then there are aspects of the unconscious that sometimes can come up to the conscious, but usually it's uncomfortable or doesn't fit into who I think I am, so I hide it. So
Mhm.
in your case, it could be the
Yeah.
expression.
Who I think I am or who I think I should be,
Yep, yep.
right? And it's so interesting too because when we were talking earlier, and we'll send people back to our other video to watch as you explain the shadow and how often it shows up as a projection onto others. Like, instead of feeling my anger today, I was just just felt overwhelmed. And for the past year, I've probably felt a lot of anger and it felt like deep pain, but I have never processed it, full
Hmm.
body process. Up here, every single morning, I wake up with a very similar recurring thought pattern, which is a negative one about my frustrations about a situation that happened a year ago now.
Hmm.
And I left it here. And today I felt it here. And it felt like anger and pain. And to like actually process that, how
Hmm.
often do we experience that, especially in medicine where we have restriction emotions? Can you share some thoughts that you have on like how it might show up for people, especially in medicine?
It would usually show up as I have to reinforce the idea of things how I think it should be. So, for example, oh, doctors work hard all the time. I can't relax. There's no time to rest. Oh, I
Mm.
have to keep working, or 80 hours, or 120 hours, or work 500 hours a week. That's just the way it is. And I suffered through that, so future people have to suffer through it too. And no, I can't relax. That doesn't exist. And so this idea of resting, relaxing is so foreign,
Mm-hmm.
ejected from the conscious idea of a lot of still today medical physician caring people in the healthcare field. And it's what are we talking about? We don't rest. We don't relax. And you see a lot of people teaching doctors how to rest and relax. And and how to help them with all those things. But some people will say, I don't need to rest. I don't need to relax. I need to work harder. What are you talking about? This is what I signed up for.
Well, you
So
were, yeah, you were totally, sorry, I cut you off because I mean, we just talked about this in May, right? How I
yeah.
overscheduled myself in May because coming on the 1 year anniversary of this experience of being in my new job, the anniversaries always kind of bring up emotions when I'm like, oh my God, it's been a year and I still haven't reconciled the issue I have in my brain. And how did I cope with that is I scheduled every moment that I had free. And to your point, when I was hearing you, it's like I I couldn't accept rest, one, because I would have to like actually process the thoughts and emotions I was feeling. And it made me question how often like we overwork as a way to distract ourselves from the reality of what's happening, or we overwork because society tells us we should always be productive. And when someone told me like I've been having productivity has become like a trigger word in my brain because I'm like, okay, when you are productive, what are you doing? Is it something valuable or is it something to fill a space when really you're saying yes to things when if you said no, you could actually do the things you're complaining about not being able to do, like exercise, eat, pee, spend time with your family or loved ones.
I'm laughing because that's the one of the recent posts I put up about
Yeah.
I was very overwhelmed and my medical student had to feed me and tell me to go pee. So that's, I was just remembering that.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and I think that's why it's we feel like I feel like in our lives we're kind of syncing up on that wavelength of looking
Yeah.
back and being like, what the heck was this all about?
So I would say that is one example. The other example would be, oh, we have to make sure the patient's always okay, or the patient surveys have to be great, or the patient's well-being is is important at the expense of my well-being. I mean, obviously, we people who became physicians and do clinical work because that's they want to at some point, or maybe they don't. But a lot of them want to treasure and value helping others, but it almost becomes at the for a lot of people at the expense of my own my well-being. It's almost like this then is relegated to the shadow. Oh, I don't need to take care of myself. I don't need to actually worry about my self-preservation of my physical humane needs or whatever. So it kind of becomes a that's not important. Let's not think about it. And this is the collective idea what we think about. This is oh everyone else is like that too. You know, oh, all the other doctors are on board. Everyone else is like this. You know, so it's this but then it's the oh wait I brought up this idea that I'm important, that I need to take care of myself so I can take care of other people. And for a lot of people, that is shadow integration. That is pulling up from the shadow stuff that's been stuffed into the shadow. Now, some people it's harder than for others because it's so deeply uh, stuffed into the shadow. So that's why two people that you give the same advice or information or coaching or suggestion to, you should relax. That way you can help others better. One person will be like, oh, you're right. That makes sense. Another one says, oh, what are you talking about? I can just work harder and I need to do this and do that. And uh, I think that's another very common thing that happens is it's this what do I ignore or not want to deal with. I want to say escaping from reality. It's a really a this is something that's just in the closet. It's just
Mhm.
this. I don't want to even when you try to talk to me about it, I get riled up. Oh, you should relax. What are you talking about? I don't need to relax. You need to relax. Which again, you're projecting our shadow. Oh, you need to take care of yourself. No, I need to take care of more patients. Well, okay, then it's this reactivity that comes from the complex aspect of the shadow, which is without getting into the details, it's kind of this conglomerate of emotional factors that's being riled up.
Yeah, and it's when you're saying that, I'm picturing too the frustration that I hear in the second voice is appreciation or feeling that you are not able. So if you tell me I need to relax more, see less patients, work less hard, well, right now I'm not currently seeing patients, but when I was a surgical resident, when I was offered things that didn't feel like they fit the reality of what I was able to change in my system, I got mad because I knew I needed to sleep more. I knew I needed to eat more. I knew I needed to take care of myself, but it didn't feel realistic within the system. And it's like, I don't know what part of that was my own limiting beliefs, but I can see why that would be a kind of a stuck point if someone does come to the realization that this is what they need and they're not able to get it within their current role.
Yeah, yeah. So that is definitely a big factor about how the way things are set up propagate the status quo of those things. But then there are still people who make those changes within that system or leave that system because of their whatever situation or revelation, or they just can't continue anymore. But the one thing I do want to emphasize is we can't go directly into engaging our shadow. We have to first be I'm going to use this term, although it's not that strong enough to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not safely within our well-being, our health, physical, physiology, even psychology to some extent, if we try to get to the shadow, it is so reactive, or it may take over so much that people end up doing things that they regret or are dangerous to themselves or others, because it's this so much of this shadow stuff that but my conscious aspect of me just can't handle it, so it just becomes a but then its action happens because it needs to go somewhere, this psychological energy. So that's one way of looking at we need to build our reserves, have we can sleep, nutrition, whatever. Because if we don't have, this is actually a great analogy. If someone has poor chronic health, they have poor nutrition, poor physical activity, not enough sleep, so their metabolism is subpar. Then they're more likely to have an adverse outcome from general anesthesia or surgery per se.
Mm-hmm.
It's having that nice reserve of all those things enables us to actually more healthfully and benefit from looking at the shadow, because the shadow is very reactive and it's super deep, meaning it's we don't know where it would really end because it's unconscious. So that's the one important factor I would say. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go look at my shadow now. Well, we can say that very easily, but but we do need that reserve support, general reserve of our well-being before we go there. Otherwise it's just way overwhelming and could be lead to not good outcomes.
Yeah, counterproductive. What that was bringing up for me is when I left surgery, I was being hospitalized inpatient for anorexia, and I was held on a stabilization period. Like I didn't dive deep into anything.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
and often what I had to nourish myself in order
yeah,
to advocate to stay in the military, and like everything was kind of like step by step. And then I often, when you hear, burnout and what the next best steps are, I'm like, get yourself into a place of rest and
yeah, yeah,
replenishment
yeah.
before you dare tackle thoughts of moving forward. So I really appreciate how you said that. And my imagination is where I'm just imagining that it would be so nice to have you as somebody that can help kind of calibrate that person, especially as physicians are kind of all in, right? And so like, oh, now that I know, and then I'm imagining too is we're exploring. I feel a lot of that somatic release of
Yeah.
energy, and then where that breath work can come in, and with the ultimate other tiers that you have as part of your coaching. And for people that are thinking, I would like to explore this, can you tell us where they can find you?
Yeah, I am very, very active on Facebook. So you can find me and you can connect. You can go to your Facebook and find me through there or just find me. The other great place is, I would say, drfrancisyou.info. It's where I collect all of my stuff. It's like my online CV, my programs, my background, interviews like this, things like that. So I would say that's the most comprehensive way to look everything about me. I guess. Yeah.
Everything about you, and I love that one on Facebook, it's really nice to be able to read your open exploration of self and where you're at. And I really appreciate being part of your own self development and self healing
Yep.
journey.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That thing I'd like to emphasize that I'm not saying I have people's solutions. I have certain ways to draw out the health, the solutions, the answers, the wisdom that is within people that's ready and wanting to be expressed in their lives.
yeah, and that's for people that aren't used to coaching. It's, can you explain how you do that with coaching versus, you were saying if you tell somebody about their shadow, they might get resistant.
Yeah, yeah.
Coaching, it it's all that pulling out. Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, the very holistic or one way of looking at healing or medicine or any of it in general is that instead of actually let's go with this. Let's go with suturing. I think suturing is a great example. When we
I'm really
suture,
good at suturing, just so
yeah,
you know, the one
yeah.
skill I really enjoyed doing during surgery.
So
But
when we suture a laceration,
okay,
right?
got it.
We don't do it and then have the patient stay there, and then we're somehow telling the blood, okay, you have to bring your clotting factors over here. Okay, you have to make sure that epithelials are going here. We don't have control of that. We're literally just slapping it together so the body can do what it can do. We just made it easier for it to do it. The body has its own way of fixing most things, and arguably all things given the right atmosphere and context. So, what coaching or all similar things I do, what I would say is yes, if you need a suture, I'll come with a suture. I mean, not physically, but it's metaphor here. But I want to help your body bring those inflammatory markers, clotting factors into the place that your body already has and the health system that already has. And that I also put in wisdom and capacity for self-discovery that we all have. It's just that sometimes we need a medication or breath or a suture or thought or emotional expression or walking a mile. There are different things that would catalyze and boost and I don't say upgrade, but optimize our own ability to learn from our soul and read the book that our soul is writing is the way I put it as well. So I think that hopefully that analogy worked. That sutures work, and if needed, I will bring in this. Let's stick things together, but then we also need to make sure the blood is flowing, the lymph is draining, and that the body's health can be more robust.
And I love that you're helping the person to heal and to calibrate so that we're not, I'm just thinking when, sutures bust open or someone is they're active too close to their surgery. We always tell people to
Yes.
rest,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And you're helping them to actually rest and to heal
Yeah.
because we know the damage that comes if we burst out of the seams too quickly. And I know that you do a lot of deep dives. So can you impart with us one little token of wisdom for today on your life lesson journey?
I would suggest to I'll bring in one idea of the yin yang, right? In Chinese medicine, there's a for every for every action there's an equal opposite reaction. That's basically yin yang. If we're trying to do things 20 hours in a day, or think of things or try things 20 hours in a day, we leave 4 hours for the non-doing, the intuition, and the answer to come to us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the context. But my suggestion is if we keep doing the one thing, meaning a particular way of doing things, and forget that the opposite thing, whatever that may be, also needs an opportunity to happen. So, for example, we can look for an answer, look for an answer, look for an answer outside, but also half the time, I would suggest, is waiting for the answer to come to you and realizing the answer is there. It's just about connecting it, and it's also coming from the inside. So it's simultaneously opposite, but it's also supplementary, complementary to the other thing. So I got philosophical and abstract again, but I needed to say this. What I would say is, what is the thing that you are misplaced, ignoring, not doing so much of? That could be relaxation, resting. Although I would argue if you rest or relax too much, that could be doing more work. So what is that? So that's the question, curiosity that I would end with.
I love that. Thank you so much for imparting your wisdom. And I know this is just the start of our journey together. So I appreciate you being here today.
Well, thank you for your kind words.